guys, it's LegendZ Gaming. We are bringing you another deck take video for the Tomb of Nazarick deck profile deck that we had built out of the booster box video that we made. So keep in mind that this deck is not complete in any way. It's just made out of the one booster box, but just kind of giving you an idea of like where we went with it and how well it plays out. Now we haven't actually got to do like a whole lot of playtesting with it so far, but it has turned out really well in my opinion for it to still not be a complete deck. So without further ado though, we will get into it. It is green and yellow with, red and yellow, excuse me, with a little bit of green splashed in for like the level zeros. So we'll start off with those. This first card, we only have the one of, as you can see, he is a double rare card. But when he's placed on the stage, you put the top card of your deck in your waiting room. If it's a level 1 or higher, he gets an additional 2k. And at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, you put the top card of your deck in your waiting room. If it is a grotesque race or nazarick character, you may move this card to any open position on your center stage. So he just lets you kind of move around a little bit. The next one that we have here is the emotion inhibition. All of your other grotesque race or nazarick characters get plus 500, and when he's placed on the stage from your hand, you choose up to 2 characters in your opponent's center stage and they get minus 500. So he's really helpful. As you can see, we only got one of him. He's also a rare card. I'd love to have more of him for sure. Now we have the assault maid. That when she's placed on the stage from your hand, you choose one of your grotesque race or nazarick characters, and they get plus 1500 power and sticker until the end of turn. So we have 2 of those. I'd like one more. Our next one, he's an alarm card, but his first auto for 1, when he's placed on the stage from your hand, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose 1 character in your waiting room and return it to your hand. But his alarm at the beginning of your climax phase, if this card is the top card of your clock, you draw 1 card, and if you do, you choose 1 card in your hand and put it in your waiting room. So he just kind of helps cycle out. So we have 2 of him that we pulled from the box. And like I said, this is just from the box. This isn't including anything from the starter deck or the promo card, anything. It's just what we opened up out of the packs. And like I said, it is not complete, but it still plays out really well. So this one, his autos, you put 1 climax from your hand in your waiting room, and when it's placed on the stage from your hand, you can choose 1 grotesque race or nazarick character in your waiting room and return it to your hand. So if you end up having to get rid of like one of the ones that you needed later on, then he helps you get it back. Our next one, we actually have 3 of her. Her autos, you put this card in your waiting room. When this card is frontal attacked, you may pay the cost. If you do, you choose 1 Embodiment of Justice Cebus in your hand and put it on the stage position that this card was on as the defending character. So it's a good little switch, and I'll get into that Embodiment of Justice here in a minute. But that really helps out. Our next one, the Crimson Red Battle Maiden. We only have one of her. As you can see, she is a double rare. But when she's placed on the stage from your hand, you choose 1 of your opponent's characters, and it gets minus 5 until the end of turn. But she also has the Brainstorm for 1 you rest mode, top 4 of your deck into your waiting room, and for each climax, you choose 1 character in your waiting room and return it to your hand. So she's really helpful for getting back other cards that you need later on. So our next one, we have 2 of her, but when she becomes reversed, if this card's battle opponent is level 0 or lower, then you may rest mode that character as well. But her act is you can put this card in your waiting room, choose 1 of your grotesque race or nazarick characters, and that character gets plus 2500 until the end of turn. So even if you just got her sitting in your backstage and you need some extra power for 1 of your main attackers, then she can give it an extra 2500, which is really helpful. Okay. Our next one, the Nature of a Floor Guardian. When he's placed on the stage, put the top card of your deck in your waiting room. Choose one grotesque race or nazarick character, and that character gets 1 soul for each trigger icon on the card that you put into your waiting room. His second auto is you return this card to your hand. When a climax is placed in your climax area, you pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your characters, and they get an extra 1,000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. So that's really good. As you can see, like there's a lot of return from the waiting room, adding power, minusing power. So this deck can get pretty mean even with it not being completed. So our next one, we have 2 of the Infiltration of the Capital, Saltier. When this card's placed on the stage in your hand, you choose one cost 0 or lower character in your opponent's center stage and return it to his or her hand. The next one, for 1, you put 1 climax in your hand in your waiting room, and when this card is placed on the stage from your hand, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose 1 climax in your waiting room and return it to your hand. So that's helpful with trying to get previous climax cards from your waiting room that you might need for climax combos coming up on some of these other cards. So that's all of our level 0s. Moving on to the first level 1 card is actually an event card. But unfortunately, we do only have the one of these, and it's a really good card. But if you have a card in your memory, you cannot play this card from your hand. But you put this card in your memory. At the beginning of your draw phase, if this card is in your memory, put the top card of your deck face down into your memory. If you have 4 or more face down cards in your memory, put all cards from your memory in your waiting room. If you put 5 or more cards in your waiting room, you deal 2 damage to your opponent, which of course the damage may be cancelled, but it's an extra little finisher when you're trying to go for game. So like I said, we only have the one of that one, unfortunately. But we do have 2 of these. When your other grotesque race or nazarick character's battle opponent becomes reversed, she gets an extra 3,000. And she's a level 1 for 0 cost. So that helps out a lot. And then our next one is Subjugation of the Wise King of the Forest. If this card is in the middle position of your center stage, it gets an additional 3,000 power of 1 soul. Plus, he's also got that Encore, which really helps save him if he does end up being defeated in battle. So we do only have 2 of those. Our next is the Embodiment of Justice Sea Bass. That gets pulled out from our little level 0 card. But if it's placed on the stage in your hand, if you don't have Where Happiness Is Twar in your waiting room, you have to rest mode it. But as a good little switch, it works out really well. Next, we have Hero of Heroes, Momon. We do only have the one of these. It is a double rare card. It has that experience thing to where if the total level of cards in your level is 2 or higher, it gets an additional 2,000 power. But its climax combo, when this card's battle opponent becomes reversed, if the curtains rise on a legend is in your climax area, it gets another level and 2,500 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. You reveal the top card of your deck. If it is a grotesque race or humanoid race character, you get to put it into your hand. Otherwise, you just put it back on top of your deck. So he's really good. Then we have our backup, little hamster dude. It is a level 1 for 0, adds 1,500. So it's really easy to get out and really helpful in a pinch. We do only have the 2 of those, but it'll be okay. Our next one up, we have 2 of the True Power Ains. And he gets plus 500 for each of your other grotesque race or nazarick characters. And everything in this deck is a grotesque race or nazarick character. So his power can stack up really high. So that's all, but that's all the level 1s. On to the level 2s. The first one up is the Details of Operation Gehenna. And when it's placed on the stage in your hand, you get to look at 2 cards on the top of your deck. You choose 1, put it in your hand, and the rest on top of your deck in any order. Choose 1 card in your hand, put it in your waiting room. This Climax combo, you gotta put this card in your waiting room, but when Operation Gehenna is placed on your Climax area, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose 1 Demon King Joldaboth in your hand and put it in the stage position that this card was on. So that's really good considering that the card that it's talking about is a level 3 card. And I'll get to him here in a minute. but we have 2 of him. We have the Resurrection Ritual. We have 3 of those. Which if you have 4 or more Grotesque Race or Nazarick characters, this card gets -1 while it's in your hand. But its Climax combo, when Saltier's Resurrection is placed on your Climax area, if this card's in your center stage, you may choose one of your other Grotesque Race or Nazarick characters, and you get to restand it. So that's very helpful. And plus he starts out at 7,000. So our next one is the Diversionary Tactics Cebus. If you have 2 or more other Grotesque Race or Nazarick characters, he gets plus 2,000 power. But plus he's got that Encore. So he's 7,500, and he's really easy to save if he does end up getting defeated in battle, which is really helpful. The next is the Committing Humans. We do only have the one of him. He is a rare card. But when he attacks, you may pay 1. If you do, during that attack, perform a trigger check 2 times on the trigger step. And then when he becomes reversed, if the level of this card's battle opponent is higher than your opponent's level, you may put that character into your opponent's stock. If you do, put the bottom card of your opponent's stock into his or her waiting room. So he's really helpful. I really wish I had some more of him. Unfortunately, we only paid the 1, or pulled the 1. But that is all for the level 2s. On to the level 3s. We have the ability of a Floor Guardian, Saltier. We only got the 1 of him. I wish I had some more, because when you play this card, you get to pull another one from your deck and play it as well. And when this card attacks, if the Pet Lance is in your Climax area, you may pay the cost. If you do, he gets the auto ability, activates once per turn. When damage dealt by this card is not canceled, you choose up to 3 cards in your clock and put them into your waiting room. So he is a healthy healer with this Climax combo, and that really comes in handy. The next one is the Nazarick's Values. It's continuous if your waiting room has 2 or less Climax cards. This card gets -1 level while it's in your hand. Plus, it has the experience. So if the level cards in your level is 4 or higher, it gets an additional 1,000 power. And when this card is placed in your stage from your hand, look at up to X cards from the top of your deck. Choose 1 card among them, put it in your hand, and put the rest into your waiting room, where X is the number of characters your opponent has. So it helps you get out earlier, adds more power to it, and it helps you search for other cards off the top to see if you can pull something that you're needing. So our next one is an event card. It is a level 3, cost 3 event card, but you can choose one of the following effects and perform it. You can either deal 2 damage to your opponent, choose 2 cards in your clock, put them in your waiting room, and put this card in your memory, or choose one of your characters, and that character gets plus 8,000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. So that is a really awesome card. I wish I had some more. Unfortunately, like so many others, we only pulled the 1. The next is the Demon King Joldaboth, like we were saying earlier. And when he's placed on the stage from your hand, you put the top card of your deck in your waiting room. Choose up to one of your opponent's level X or lower characters to put it into his waiting room. And X is equal to the level of the revealed card. So that is very helpful. But his Climax combo is, if Operation Gehenna is in your Climax area, you may pay 1. You choose up to 1 character in your waiting room, return it to your hand, and then he gets the following auto ability. It activates up to 1 time per turn, and when damage dealt by this card is canceled, you may deal 1 damage to your opponent. So as you can see, a lot of these are like, if the damage is canceled, deal more. If the damage is not canceled, heal some. So like I said, it can get really mean. The next one is Infinite Loyalty, Albedo. If you have 4 or more Grotesque Race or Nazarick characters, he gets -1 in your hand. And during your turn, he gets plus 500 power for each of your other Grotesque Race or Nazarick characters. And he already starts off at 9,000. So that is really helpful. But as auto, you put 1 from your one card from your hand in your waiting room. And when this card is placed on the stage from your hand, you may pay the cost. If you do, put the top card of your clock in your stock. So like some others where it goes into your waiting room, this one goes into your stock, which helps you pay for other cards. Plus, with this first continuous, you can get him out of level early. But so that is all for the level 3s. We'll move into the Climax cards. We have 2 of the Operation Gehenna, which give all characters plus 1,001 soul. And when the next damage dealt by this attacking character that triggered this card is cancelled, deal 1 damage to your opponent. The next one is the Curtains Rise on a legend. So again, plus 1,000 power and 1 soul. But when this card triggers, you may choose one of your opponent's characters and return it to his or her hand, which can open up a spot for a direct attack on their center stage. The next is the Pipette Lance, which is another 1,000 power and 1 soul. But you can choose one character in your waiting room and return it to your hand, which is very helpful. Then we have Saltier's Resurrection. When this card is placed on the comics area from your hand, you perform the trigger, and when it triggers, you may choose one character in your waiting room with level equal to or lower than your level plus 1 and put it on any stage position as rest mode. So those other cards that let you restand a character really pair out well with this. And then we added in the grass part. It's 1,000 power and 1 soul. When it triggers, you can choose one character in your waiting room and return it to your hand. But it was pretty. It was our triple rare Climax card from the set that we pulled, and we liked it. But anyways, guys, that is the Tomb of the Undead Nazarick deck that we put together from just that one booster box. Like I said, that deck, it is not completed in any way, but it's still really mean. But don't forget to like and subscribe. Let us know down there in the comments what you think that we could do with this deck to make it complete, and what you think that we should take out of it. But as far as that goes, guys, see you next time.